everyone, and welcome to this oil painting time-lapse entitled The Unicorn Lagoon. I really hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new, and let's begin the video. This oil painting is actually based on a fairy tale that I wrote, and I'm going to talk about the fairy tale in lots of detail in a moment. I just wanted to make a point that I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm not painting from my desk as I normally do. I actually transferred to my easel, and this was a big step for me because my easel is quite flimsy and rubbish, and when I paint on it, it's actually quite hard because it's so kind of flimsy and falling apart that it doesn't stay straight very well. So if I apply too much pressure on the canvas, in actual fact the easel will shake and move around in a sort of really weird way. However, I just thought that it would be really nice to show you guys my painting on an easel because I think it actually looks a lot better. You can really see more clearly how I paint and also the actual painting in its entirety. So I think that it's a better idea, even though it is a little bit more tricky and must look a little bit odd in a way because I've gone so close to the canvas, and there's my ring light is right in front of the the canvas, so my arm is sort of right in the frame, which is a bit odd as well, but that's kind of the only setup I could do because this easel is such a very odd shape. Also, just as another comical point, my ring light is balanced upon a chair because when I bought my ring light, it didn't actually come with a stand, and I thought, I know, I probably have one somewhere, or I have a tripod that I can use for my light, but I didn't realise that my tripod from my other old light was really, really short, and so it doesn't even reach sort of face height, my face height. And so basically, pretty much the whole situation of my camera setup, particularly when I'm filming my face, my ring light is balanced upon a chair and then the camera is on the ring light, so at any moment it could basically fall and crash upon me. So every time I film, it's a very tense situation in many ways and has a lot of peril involved. I don't know why I don't adapt it or buy a new tripod. I guess being, as I said before in my last video, being a poor artist, you've just got to make do with whatever you have for now. So anyway, I'm going to talk now about the fairy tale that I wrote to create this painting. So the story begins with a very old man who lives in a town that's also very old and small, and he works in a ticket office, and he's been working there his whole life, and he is basically either ignored by the local people who come to take the train, or he's treated in a very rude way by some of the young people that live in the town who don't really have much regard for him or care about his little ticket office or the little station where they take the train. To this old man, the ticket office and the station is so sacred to him because he spent his whole life every day working there. One day the worst thing happens. The old man comes to work as normal and he finds that a group of teenagers have smashed up his ticket machine. Not only have they smashed up his ticket machine, but they have littered all across the station. The old man does not know what to do because his boss is a fat and evil man who does not think he's very good at his job, and he knows that he's going to be in so much trouble even though it wasn't his fault. He decides in the end to do what he has always done, which is put on a brave face and clean up all the mess in the station and make it all nice, even though he can't repair the ticket machine, but he does his best to make it look good before his boss arrives. Little does he know that it's all too late. When his boss arrives, he's never really liked the old man anyway, and when he sees the disaster that's happened to the ticket machine, he decides to fire his long-standing employee, and the old man cannot believe it, but he accepts what has happened, and with good grace he decides to take his bags and leave. Very sad and dejected, the old man thinks about his future as he walks home. He walks through this beautiful woods where he lives. in this small little house all by himself. Because the old man is so sad, he walks and he walks through the forest without thinking about his direction, and he begins to lose his way. He keeps looking around and there's more and more trees, and he seems to be going deeper and deeper into the woods without realizing where he is and how to get out and how to find his house. He finds it all very odd because he knows the way very well. Finally, he reaches a small clearing in the woods and he sees this shallow amount of water. And because he's so thirsty, because he's been walking so far, and without thinking, he starts to drink from it. All of a sudden he feels terrible because he realizes that it's very dangerous to drink from water that you don't know is clean. Despite his initial feeling of trepidation, then he begins to feel revived, and he suddenly straightens up. For a long time he hasn't straightened up. He has this big stoop in his back. However, that seems to be gone. And he turns around as if he can sense something behind him. And that's when he sees this beautiful unicorn. It's glistening with purple and pink, and he cannot believe his eyes. The unicorn is sitting on the ground, and the moment it sees the old man, it bows its head. The old man pats the unicorn on its head as a little greeting, and the unicorn bows its head again. And it's at that point that the old man realizes that he has to make friends with the unicorn. The old man sits on the unicorn and the unicorn stands up. And all of a sudden the old man is not old anymore. The sadness and the wrinkles and all the worry and his woes fall away. And he is mighty. He then walks on the unicorn through the forest, through these enormous trees and these magical mushrooms. And he goes into the town, and there all the people gather in absolute shock, and they recognize him, but they cannot believe it's him. It's like a younger and more powerful version of him. And he walks past his old boss, who's standing there with his mouth open in shock. And he walks past the teenagers who wrecked his station, and then he walks past everyone who he served over the years and years, and at last he rides off into the sunset on the unicorn to the castle beyond. I really hope you enjoyed my little fairy tale. I certainly enjoyed writing it. I've always been fascinated by fantastical creatures living in forests, or magical unearthly things living under the sea. And I think I'm trying to push myself more into creating work that is a lot more in line with my imagination and not playing it safe all the time, because I have a tendency to, and I don't know whether any other artists, any of you guys feel this way, that when I get to uploading or I get to start painting, I start being very concerned about if people will get my ideas and if it looks too odd or too weird. And that's often been my thought process when I've been creating either for YouTube or just creating for galleries, because I worry that people might not, the audience is so important to me, and I worry that people may be confused with what I'm coming up with, and also may find it a little bit too, it makes them feel too uncomfortable, that they just find it too alien. And I don't think that that's the case so much with my subscribers, because I think everyone is so creative. But people who perhaps stumble across my videos and might be expecting a certain type of time lapse, and then they start to think, what on earth what on earth has this person come up with? So I try to keep it at the moment a little bit more conventional, a little bit more reined in, but I do want to in the future continue to push the boundaries, and particularly of my writing, and particularly of sticking closer to my original thoughts as opposed to changing them to fit a kind of not necessarily family friendly, because I think that even if I was to create something that was in my very darkest thoughts, I think that it wouldn't be too offensive. But it's the point of offending people, or rather making people feel uncomfortable. I think that's the best way of putting it, because sometimes when things are a little bit too unearthly, it can make people think, what is that? Or can you please explain? Or this is useless to me because it's just so bizarre that it's not going to help me in any way with my oil painting. But at the same time, I do really want to show an element of how far you can go with it, and you don't have to stick to necessarily the YouTube framework. It's a little bit of a difficult situation because when you're creating for YouTube and there is a certain amount of pressure to be very similar to other videos, and I don't think that I ever really fit that mold anyway, but it can become a feeling to adopt if you are looking for a lot of views. And even though views, they do concern me, I'm not somebody who doesn't care at all about views, but I don't think it's the first concern anymore. I think it's more about creating what I can and being as entertaining as possible. And I think even if the ideas may seem very odd and unusual to some people, I think that that's okay because it's come from a very unique place and it's come from my mind and from nothing else. So there is that element of originality, which I think is crucial when creating art. I do really enjoy making narrated time lapses. I've been having some time constraints with appearing on camera and creating the time lapse together, because although I actually prefer to make videos where I'm on camera as well, I think that it's just too difficult to get everything up on the designated times that I've set. So I've just left it to do the best I can within the short time space. Not only that, but sometimes, I don't know if this just happens to me, I'm sure it happens to everyone, but I will have all the video ready and on time and everything, and then I'll go up to the upload section on YouTube, that very familiar place to all of us, and it will, for those of you who are not on YouTube, as in you don't upload, you go to this screen and all it says upload your video, and you assume that it's going to take a couple of minutes, but sometimes, and I don't know exactly why, because there have been videos that I've created that have been really short and they've for some reason or another taken about 40 minutes to upload, or even longer than that. And I think it could be to do with internet connection, or I'm sure there are several different factors, but they sometimes advise you as to what the factors could be, and they never seem to be that reason. And so, at least not in my case anyway, so it's a very confusing conundrum, a great mystery, the upload system of YouTube, something that I will never understand. Certain aspects of YouTube that just will confuse me for the rest of my life. But there we are, and I really hope that you've been enjoying this oil painting, and it's been quite a easy process. I actually forgot to include a photograph of the concept sketch that I created. It was quite an easy process because I had this really rubbishy concept sketch that I created. I don't normally do concept sketches. I just go straight in with the oil paints and start right away. But in this instance, I decided to create one, and it did make my whole initial setup of the oil painting in terms of composition much faster. So I'm probably going to do it again, and I really hope that you liked it. And also, just as a last note, I will be uploading this Sunday as opposed to Saturday, as I'm doing the Green Gold Challenge, and I can't wait to explain more about that, but it will be all in my next video, so don't forget to tune in on Sunday. And I've really enjoyed speaking with you today, and have a wonderful week, and thank you all so much for your comments. I am catching up, and also I've been getting such lovely comments, and I just want to thank you all so much, and have a great week, and I will see you soon.